Today we're going to be replacing the screen on an iPhone 7 Plus. Okay, the first thing we have to do when we replace the screen on an iPhone 7 Plus, we have to turn off our device if it is possible. Sometimes the touchscreen doesn't work, so we're not able to do it. Now we're going to take our cell phone and we are going to apply heat around the edges. There's always adhesive around the edges. So I'm applying 150 degrees Celsius. Right around the edges, especially on this area. Now we have to remove 2 screws from the bottom. And we're gonna use our pentalobe screwdriver to remove those 2 screws. They're right next to the charging port. We start with number 1. Take it out. And we place it right here in order. So I'm pretending this is my phone. This is my iPhone 7 Plus. So the 2 bottom screws, they go on the bottom part. Now I'm going to remove the other one. And I have my 2 bottom screws on the bottom. This is the only time I'm going to use my pentalobe screwdriver. Now I have to apply heat around the edges. There's going to be adhesive around the edges, so I have to apply heat. My current temperature is 150 Celsius. Now I'm gonna take my opening tool, and there's always gonna be a gap on the bottom right corner. I'm gonna put some alcohol from my alcohol dispenser, and now I'm going to go between the LCD and the frame, or between the screen and the frame. It's always right there. Now that I created the gap or the entrance, I'm going to replace that with my opening tool or my guitar pick. Now I can go on the edges and lift up the screen. I can pull it out. So I'm going to open the screen. And if you notice, I'm going from this side to the other side, from the left to the right. I'm not going on the top side. Here you go. Now I'm going to move the screen from side to side. And I'm going to open the screen from left to right. So the screen is being held by 2 hooks on the top part. 1, 2, 3. 3, I'm sorry. Here you go. So now that I have my phone open, I open my phone from left to right. The first thing I have to do is remove this metal plate, so that I can disconnect the battery. I'm going to place my motherboard holder on the back of the screen so that I don't let go, to hold the screen so that I can work on the battery. Let me show you. This is my motherboard holder. You can put anything behind this LCD. Now I'm going to use my Y-shape screwdriver to remove 1, 2, 3, 4 screws and remove the plate that's holding the charging port, the battery, and the LCD. I am going to do this under the microscope so you guys can see it closer. As you guys can see, on that metal plate we have 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. So I'm going to remove them right now. And they're Y-shape. Now there's gonna be one on the top or the right side. If I put my phone like I had it before, here's the right side. It's hard to see it like that, but let me just, this is the way I have it right now under the microscope so you guys can see it. So now I'll remove the long screw. So these 3 screws are small and this is a long one, a longer one. Now let me go back to TV number 1. Now I have to remove this metal plate that is covering the connectors. So I'm going to use my opening tool and I'm going to lift it up. Here's the metal plate. Okay, now when I'm organizing my screws, I'm going to make sure I place them in the same order that I removed them on this mat. So the long one goes on the right corner and the small ones, one goes on the upper right, the other one goes in the middle, and the other one goes right here on the bottom left. Why do I do this? The screws are different sizes, so if I put the wrong screw in the wrong place, I can damage the motherboard. So make sure you organize your screws. So this is on the right. Here you go. Now I'm gonna take my opening tool and I'm going to disconnect the battery. Here is the battery. I'm going to disconnect it. So I disconnect the battery. I'm just gonna go with my opening tool and I'm going to lift it up from one corner. That's it. So that was the battery. Now I have to disconnect the LCD, the 2 cables that come with the screen. Here you go. The battery is still disconnected. Now I disconnect the 2 cables for the LCD. Now that I disconnected those cables, I can let go of my motherboard holder. So I'm just holding the screen with my hand, with my left hand. Now I'm going to take the screen. I see some glue right here. I'm just going to remove that glue. I'm going to take the screen and I'm going to place it without ripping the proximity sensor cable. I'm going to just place it right here. so that I have enough space to remove those 1, 2, 3 screws that are holding the flex cable for the proximity sensor. So 1, 2, 3, and we're also going to use our Y-shape screwdriver. So here is the one. Make sure you don't pull this cable or you will rip the cable. Don't pull it. Just right here, enough space so that you can see the metal shield. Let me move it over here, maybe to number 2. This shield right here. So I am going to go under the microscope so you guys can see it. This is the one I'm talking about. So there's gonna be one on the left side, or the bottom side, I guess, left side from the phone. If you notice, this is the size. Now the second one. And the last one is the third one. I am going to use my opening tool, and here is the metal cover. Now same process. This is the metal shield. Now again, my screws, they're gonna be in the same order. So the one from the right, the one on the right side, and let me put this one on the top side. They are the same size. These two bottom ones are the same size. However, I'm still going to organize them. So the one from the right, the one from the left, the top one. Okay? So now I have to disconnect my proximity sensor cable, which is this one right here, this one. Here's the cable. So what do I have to do is I just have to go underneath the cable and disconnect. That's it. Now that I disconnected the cable was connected right here, and I just went with my opening tool and disconnected the cable. So now I have my screen. We're gonna have to transfer the Touch ID or the home button to the other screen, the speaker and the proximity sensor to the other screen. Okay? So remember, your battery has to be disconnected. So what I have to do first is I'm gonna get my screen replacement. And I'm going to check that my screen is working properly. So let me put the old screen away. I'm just going to hold the screen, or I can put my holder on the back, and I'm going to connect it. So how do you connect it? You connect the first one on the top part and the longest one on the bottom part. Let me do it under the microscope. This is how I'm holding the screen. So I connect one. It's just, you just plug it in, and then you plug in the next one. Here we go. I'm just using my fingers, and now I can connect the battery so that I can test the screen. Now I'm going to test the screen, make sure everything is working properly. So I'm checking for dead pixels, and I'm also checking for the touchscreen to work. Okay, so I'm going to check the touchscreen. Everything is working. Maybe I'll check if there is any pressure. There are any pressure points? No pressure points. So this one is ready to go. Now I turn off the device, and I'm going back and disconnect the battery. So I'm holding my screen with my left hand, and I disconnect the battery again. And now I'm going to disconnect the LCD. Here you go. I'm going to put my phone away, and now we have to replace the speaker and the home button. When we purchased our screens, they come with the metal plate on the back pre-installed. Some screens don't come with that, so if you have to transfer the metal plate from the back, you have to do it as well. If your phone doesn't have the metal plate, if your screen doesn't have the metal plate, you have to transfer that as well. We always purchase our screens with the metal plate included. Okay, so I'm going to remove the screws from the Touch ID, and I'm going to use my Y-shape screwdriver. So there's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. I have to apply some pressure. Let me use my tweezers to pick them up. Here you go. I'm gonna leave that the space right here for my screen, for the parts for my screen. Or maybe I just do it down here so that I don't get confused on my way back. Okay, so now I go to the other ones. The following 3, I'm going to do them under the microscope so you guys can see. So here you go. Y-shape. There comes another one. And now the next one. And now we're gonna go to the last one. So I removed the 3 screws, and now I have to remove the plate that's holding the Touch ID connector. So this is the plate, this is the Touch ID connector. So now I still have to remove one more screw. Our new screen doesn't come with that screw. For the metal plate on the back is this one. So I'm going to remove that screw. Now for that screw, we have to use our Phillips screwdriver. Here you go. And that screw, I put it right here on the top because it goes from left to right. Let me organize them a little better. If this is your first time, you have to be sure you organize everything the same way you took it out. So this one goes in that hole, this one goes in that hole, this one goes in the middle hole, and this one goes on the left hole. And now this is for the metal plate. This is the one that we have to use the Phillips screwdriver. Okay, so now we have to remove our Touch ID or home button. There's gonna be a connector. There's gonna be a connector here, and this is the Touch ID. Now we have to be really careful when we remove the Touch ID. If we don't do it the right way, we can rip the cable, or we can damage the circuits that controls the Touch ID. You have to make sure you don't damage this cable, or your fingerprint recognition is not going to work anymore. You can replace it. However, your fingerprint recognition will never work again. And the buttons that are in the market are really bad quality. So even though it's gonna work, sometimes it's not gonna work, sometimes it's gonna work. So it's better that you remove this cable the right way so you don't have to deal with any problems later. So I'm going to do it under the microscope. Okay, here's the cable. So first things first, I'm going to take my opening tool and I'm going to disconnect the cable. So how do you disconnect the cable? You just take your opening tool and you go, I'm going to hold it and you're gonna go side to side. Let me do it up here so you guys can see it better. I'm connecting the cable one more time so you guys can see it better. So I'm just, I hold it with my finger and I go side to side. And disconnect the cable. So everything that I do, I have to do it gentle. I don't want to damage the cable. Do you guys see the connector right there? So there is the connector for the Touch ID, and this cable goes through here. It goes to the phone or to the motherboard. This is the Touch ID. This is the cable that I just disconnected. So all I did is it was connected right here, and I went with my opening tool. I hold it with one finger and then I went side to side and disconnected the cable. Okay, so now we have to remove the Touch ID. To remove the Touch ID, we're gonna do two different things. We're going to apply heat on front of the screen, and then we are going to use alcohol to remove the tape or the adhesive that's underneath the flex cable for the Touch ID. So first things first, I'm going to apply heat. So here's where I'm applying heat. The flex cable is on this side, so I do it on the front side. Let me show you into number one. Here you go. Do not apply heat to the cable. You apply heat to the broken glass. Now I'm going to go to the other side. I'm gonna take some alcohol. And I'm going to go underneath the flex cable and gently, with my flat head screwdriver, I'm going to take alcohol and I'm going to lift the cable. Underneath the cable, I'm just removing the glue underneath. Here you go. Now it's loose. Now it's loose. So now this is all I did. I went underneath with alcohol and I applied heat on the front side to loosen this up. Okay, now the cable it's already out. I'm going to push the Touch ID from the back to the front, and it's going to come out from the front side. Here you go. That's it. So I have my Touch ID. It's ready. Now, if we check under the microscope, did I rip any cables? Did I damage any connectors? Everything looks perfect. So this one will have to work. Okay, so now we have to do the ear speaker. In the ear speaker, we're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For that one, we're going to use our Phillips screwdriver, and I'm going to do this under the microscope. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm gonna start with the right one. So let's just work on the bottom one so we don't get confused. They are different size, so be very careful, make sure you organize them. So I'm counting from the right to the left. These are the bottom ones, and I keep them organized. And now 2 on the top. As long as you develop a technique, this is going to be very easy. But if you just put everything all over the place, it's gonna be hard to build it the first time. So now I remove the screws, the 3 on the bottom and 2 on the top. I put this one on the left side because it goes on the left side, but it doesn't go on top of the left screws. It goes up and then one spot to the left. So that's exactly how I did it. Now I'm gonna take the metal plate and I'm going to lift it up and I'm going to place it right next to the screws. So I know 3 on the bottom and 2 on the top. Now I have to, this is my front camera. It's this one. And then there's gonna be the speaker. So here's my front camera. I'm going to pull it away, not pull it away, but just move it to the side. And I'm going to take my speaker, ear speaker. Here's the ear speaker. So I'm going to put the ear speaker right here next to the plate. Now we have to remove the flex cable that controls the microphone, one of the microphones, the front camera, the proximity sensor, and the light sensor right here on the top. So how do I do this? Again, I'm going to apply heat to the top. There you go. And now I'm going to get my flathead screwdriver and I'm going to remove this cable with some alcohol. I have my alcohol dispenser and I'm going to remove the cable. Now I have to start from the left side. I'm just going to lift this up. So I'm going with alcohol and I just lift. Oh, so I just go with alcohol and I just lift this cable up. If I need more alcohol, I'll get more alcohol. And I go underneath, side to side. I go underneath, side to side. and remove the cable. So now I put some more alcohol and I keep working my way inside, side to side. And I lift up the cable. Here you go. Now my proximity sensor is right there. I'm not going to pull this out yet. I'm just going to get my flathead screwdriver and I'm gonna go underneath right here and just lift it up gently. I'm still using alcohol. It's almost out. Here you go. There is the proximity sensor. So I'm not using any force, I'm not forcing anything, any strength. It's just a flathead screwdriver and alcohol. Now that I have my flex cable, I'm just going to place it here next to the ear speaker and the plate that covers the ear speaker. So I have my old screen and I'm going back to my new screen. Here's my new screen. So I'm going to start with my home button. Well, I can actually start from the top side. Let's do it from the beginning, from the last thing you did. So here's the ear speaker section. So I'm just gonna go under the microscope and show you. I'm going to remove that film. Here you go. And now I'm gonna take my flex cable for my proximity sensor and I'm going to place it right here. So the first thing I have to install is the proximity sensor. That was the last thing I removed. So I am going to place it in this bracket or this plastic holder and I'm going to hold it with my fingers. It fits in, so make sure it's all the way in. So let me hold it. Here you go. So now it's all the way in and it's in and secure. Now the next one, it's going to be my light sensor, which is this one. This is the light sensor. This one. Oh, it came off. So let me just put it back in there. Hold on, it's giving me problems, but it's okay. Here we go. So let me just hold it with my opening tool. Now it's going to be the light sensor. It folds, and the light sensor. Here we go. Now I'm holding everything down with my finger. This is how it looks. I'm holding everything down with my finger. Let me change views. So I'm holding this cable with my finger, the proximity sensor, and the light sensor with my finger. Okay. So now I have to align this cable as well. It has two holes. I just align it right there. Those contacts to connect the speaker. So I'm holding everything down with my finger. Now I'm going to get my speaker. I'm going to get my speaker. Here you go. And I'm going to put it on the flex cable. So here's the speaker. I can see a contacts right here, so it's gonna be facing down. And I'm holding my speaker and I'm holding the cable with my finger. So here you go. I'm holding everything down with my fingers. I have to do it until I put the metal plate on it. Now, I have to put my camera on top of the speaker, and then I'm going to put it, there is going to be a holder for the camera. I'm going to place it right there, and I hold everything with my fingers. Let me do it under the microscope. So here's the camera. That's the plastic holder. I'm just going to put the camera in the plastic holder and hold everything with my finger. Now, I'm gonna get my metal holder. I'm going to place it on top of the camera and the flex cable. I'm still gonna hold it with my finger. This is how it looks. And I'm going to put the 5 screws that I was missing. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4 screws. So like always, I have to be organized. So I'm gonna start with the bottom ones. And remember, we are using our Phillips. So there goes number 1. There goes number 2. It's a different size. And now there goes number 3. Let me align it. Now we're gonna do the top screws. There goes 1. There goes 2. I can let go of the metal plate. This is how it looks. The metal plate, let me see. Here you go. That's the metal plate. Okay. So now we're gonna do the home button. Okay, for the home button, it's the same thing. We're just going backwards. So I'm gonna take my home button, which is this one, and I'm going to put my home button through the hole from the front side. So again, it goes inside from the front. Just put it all the way in. And now you have to make sure it's underneath the connector. This connector right here. So let me do it under the microscope. So I'm just going to lift the connector and put the Touch ID flex cable right there. Here you go. Let me make sure it goes in this holder right here. Okay, now we put the connector down, the one for the LCD, and we connect the Touch ID. So if you need help, you can use your opening tool. It has to click in. Here you go. Clicks in. It's nice and secure. There is no damage to the phone. The cable is in perfect condition. Okay, so now I have my cable disconnected. Now I have to put the metal plate on it. This is the cable I just connected, Touch ID. So now we have to put our plate back, so our holder back. So I take my plate, this is the plate, I put it back on the screen. I'm going to use my Y shape and I start from left to right. So here comes the first one. Now let me go under the microscope so I can finish. Now we go to the next one. I'm just following the same order that I removed them. Okay, now I'm gonna go to the next one. Here you go. And then the last one from the left side. Okay, now just remember we have one left that goes on the plate. So there is the plate. We have one more, and that one we're going to use the Phillips screwdriver. Okay, so we got that in. Now it's time to connect to build our phone. Here you go. So again, the first thing I have to do is connect the flex cable for the proximity sensor. So what do? I hold my screen, like, just remember the battery is still disconnected. So I'm gonna take my flex cable and I'm going to connect it. How do I connect it? I put my screen right here on the bottom, and I'm going to connect the cable. Here you go. I have the cable, and I'm just connecting the cable. So under the microscope looks like this. There is a connector. Here you go. Nice. Don't rip the cable. Okay, now what do we have to do? We have to put our plate that holds the flex cable for the proximity sensor. And remember, the screws, they have to go in the same order. So the little ones on the bottom and the big one on the top. Here you go. If we see it from this side, this is how it looks. The little ones on the bottom and the big ones on the top. And we use our Y-shape screwdriver. Here's the first one. Oops, I took the wrong one. Here you go. So every time I put my screws in, I make them tight, but I don't over tie them. I don't want to damage the motherboard or the phone. Now we go to the next one. And then the last one. Okay, so now we have our metal plate, 1, 2, 3 screws. Now we have to connect our LCD. I'm gonna grab my holder again, and do not connect the battery. I'm just gonna connect my LCD. First is this cable from the back, and then the last one, the long one. So I'll do that under the microscope. This is how I'm holding the screen. So you're just gonna take one, the first one, and you're going to push down, make sure it clicks, and now I'm gonna go to the next one. Remember, my battery has to be disconnected, and I make sure it clicks. Here you go. Now I can connect my battery. Here it goes, connected. Now that I connected my battery, I'm still holding my screen. I'm not gonna let go. I don't want the cables to get damaged, or I don't want the cables to get disconnected. I'm going to put my metal plate, and I'm going to put my 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just remember, we are going to use our Y shape screwdriver. The long screw goes on the top, hole, and the other ones, they go on the other side. If I put my phone like this, I can tell, well, this one goes here, this one goes here, and that one goes there. So I just follow the same system. All you have to do is organize yourself, and this is going to be an easy process. And let me do the last one under the microscope so you guys can see it. Here you go. That's it. So install our screws. Everything looks nice and organized. So now I have my phone ready. So what do I have to do? I have to get the phone ready to, I have to close the phone. So there's gonna be 3 hooks right here. I don't know if you guys can see them. So we have 3 hooks right here. We're gonna start from the top, and then we're gonna go to the edges. So let me see. So let me remove the dust or the okay. Let me remove this dust right here. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to start from the top. Okay, I have some dust on the edges. Let me remove that. Okay, so I start from top. And then I make sure everything is aligned, and you insert the screen, the hooks to the frame, and then you're gonna press on one side, and then you're going to press on the other side. The last thing you have to do is put the pentalobe screws from the bottom. Let me magnetize it. There you go. And now the next one, the last one. Okay, so our screen replacement is done. This is just a screen protector. Not a screen protector, it comes with the screen. So if we remove this, our screen replacement is done. Now what you do is just clean the edges with a cleaning cloth, and that's it. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, please post them on the comments section. If you please visit cellphonerepairacademy.com. Thank you. Have a nice day.